afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming. We are now starting our Committee on Streets and Services. We have a quorum here. To my left, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Greenlee. To my right, Councilman O and Councilwoman Sanchez. The hearing has now started. Mr. McMonagle, please read the title of the first bill.
Bill number 160844, an ordinance repealing an ordinance approved the 11th day of January AD 1950 by declaring the intention of the City of Philadelphia to organize and authorizing the organization of a parking authority under Act 5 of June 5th, 1947, all under certain terms and conditions.
Is there anybody testifying on this bill?
Rochelle Nichols Solomon?
You going to start?
Excuse me, Councilman.
And Steve?
Is this the parking authority bill? Yeah. I'm here to testify.
Before we start with testimony, I'd like to recognize Councilman O.
Just in case somebody else comes up.
Thank you very much, Chairman Squilla. This ultimately comes down to a bill to take back control of on-street parking. However, the issue of control means that we're in the driver's seat as we should be. It may be that we end up securing a contract, a negotiated contract with the parking authority. Those type of things come up. My purpose is just to lay out and address the legal memorandums that have been provided to me from the law department and to refute them, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'll ask you to bear with me. I want to go through them carefully. If you wait to the end, all the legal arguments, at least on my part, will be addressed. I am trying to do this in layman terms, so they're easy to understand, and I certainly can go through that at another level. So we have a slide presentation. You have a PowerPoint in front of you, so if I may begin, I will start. Bill number 160844 is lawful and returns control of administering the on-street parking system and other functions to the citizens of Philadelphia. This bill does not dissolve the Philadelphia Parking Authority. The bill provides Philadelphians the opportunity to take back control of a critical municipal function and its revenues. The city has the legal authority. The city has the legal authority to take back the functions and administering the on-street parking system and other functions from the Philadelphia Parking Authority. The administrations, in this case, the past mayor's administration and the current mayor's administration, reliance on the Supreme Court decision in City of Philadelphia versus Schweiker, and various statutes enacted by the Pennsylvania General Assembly after 2001 is misplaced. The Pennsylvania Constitution, Article 3, Section 32, prohibits the General Assembly from enacting local laws or special legislation regulating the affairs of counties, cities, etc. What that means is the Pennsylvania Constitution forbids the General Assembly from making laws that are local and special because counties and cities are separate independent branches of government or entities of government. In City of Philadelphia versus Schweiker, the city abandoned its claim under Article 3, Section 32. Therefore, they were never considered. Article 3, Section 32. Local control, the ability of counties and municipalities to make their own decisions, is very important in Pennsylvania. To protect local control, the Pennsylvania Constitution, Article 3, Section 32, prohibits the General Assembly from passing any local or special law that regulate the affairs of counties, cities. The General Assembly would violate the Pennsylvania Constitution if it legislated that the Philadelphia Parking Authority perform the city's functions and prevented Philadelphia from altering its relationship with the parking authority without the parking authority's consent, absent a bona fide state interest. The Takeover, Act 22 of 2001. The Pennsylvania Constitution requires that the General Assembly enact general laws, not local or special, which serve the public interest. In 2001, Pennsylvania Speaker of the House met with the Mayor of Philadelphia. The Mayor ignored the Speaker. The Speaker responded with legislation, that is Act 22, that the Governor, rather than the Mayor, appoint the board members of the Philadelphia Parking Authority. As a result, the leadership of the Philadelphia Parking Authority changed and no longer responded to the Mayor of Philadelphia. Act 22 also required the PPA, Parking Authority, to transfer up to $45 million of its retained earnings to Philadelphia School District with similar annual transfers. There was no city parking issue or problem that precipitated this change. And I'll just add, the reason is because the state could not seize the parking authority, it had to say that the reason it was seizing the parking authority was to fund the schools. Right. And therefore, it wasn't a little bit of money, it was a lot of money. It was $45 million per year. That is what they claimed. The City of Philadelphia files in court. Consistent with newly enacted amendments, the governor appointed 6 new members, 2 recommended by the Speaker, 2 from the Senate President pro tempore, and 2 from the governor, to the existing 5-member board. So there were 5 from the mayor, now there were 6 from the governor. City filed a common pleas court in common pleas court challenging the validity of the amendments. City also sought injunctive relief to prevent the new members from being sworn in. Common pleas court lacked jurisdiction and transferred the case to Commonwealth Court. Commonwealth Court lacked jurisdiction and dismissed the case. The city then sought emergency stay and exercise of King's Bench powers with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court denied the city's request for relief regarding seating of newly constituted board members, but stayed further implementation of challenged amendments. Pennsylvania Supreme Court returned the matter to the Commonwealth Court and lifted the stay. City filed an amended complaint before the Commonwealth Court with 7 arguments. First, amendments impermissibly and unconstitutionally infringe upon city's home rule charter and corresponding ordinances. Second, amendments violate a legislative pledge not to alter or limit any rights of PPA until all bonds have been fully met and discharged. Third, city relied on such pledge in dealing with parking authority. Fourth, singling out PPA constitutes special legislation without substantial valid or rational basis. Fifth, the special or local amendments were passed without the constitutionally required published notice. Six, amendments unconstitutionally delegate municipal functions to a special commission. Seventh, amendments were passed in a bill which violated Pennsylvania Constitution's single subject rule. In response to the city's amended complaint, the state and the parking authority filed preliminary objections. A full panel of the Commonwealth Court granted their preliminary objections and dismissed the city's complaint. The city then appealed to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Pennsylvania Supreme Court affirmed the order of the Commonwealth Court dismissing the case. Pennsylvania Supreme Court found that the city raised constitutional challenges, including Article 3, Section 32 to Act 22 in its amended complaint, but failed to state these issues in its list of questions presented on appeal, did not discuss them in the body of the brief, did not include them in its prayer for relief. Therefore, the Supreme Court found that the city abandoned these claims. City of Philadelphia versus Schweiker is not on point. The legal memorandum provided by the Law Department to City Council on January 25, 2017 regarding the legal authority of Bill 160844 relies heavily on City of Philadelphia versus Schweiker, where the Pennsylvania Supreme Court affirmed the Commonwealth Court's dismissal of the city's case. In City of Philadelphia versus Schweiker, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court found that the city had abandoned its claims under Article 3, Section 32. As a result, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court never considered the issues of constitutionally prohibited legislation by the General Assembly which interfered with Philadelphia's county and city functions. Since the decision in City of Philadelphia versus Schweiker, the General Assembly has enacted various laws regarding on-street parking and other municipal functions, empowering the parking authority and possibly restricting the City of Philadelphia. The City of Philadelphia has not challenged the constitutionality of these laws under Article 3, Section 32. Parking authority is not accountable to the City of Philadelphia. It has a direct relationship with the General Assembly. Through the General Assembly, the parking authority obtained additional duties within our city and generates funds which are not known to city officials. These funds are collected by the parking authority and placed in non-city accounts and used outside the city.
That's right, David.
Act 9 of 2004. After Mayor Street expressed the city's intent not to extend its contract with the parking authority, Act of February 10, 2004, called Act 9, unilaterally extended the parking authority's administration of cities on-street parking for an additional 10 years after the 1994 agreement between the city and the parking authority expired. There was a contract, an agreement between the city and the parking authority for 10 years from 1994 to 2004, just before it was going to expire, and Mayor Street said he would not renew it. The Pennsylvania General Assembly simply enacted a law extending it upon the city for another 10 years. Annual transfers from the parking authority to the city of $25 million net of on-street parking revenue and excess to the school district was the new formula. So after it collected its money, $25 million would go to the city, and anything above that would go to the school district. So they changed their formula of $45 million per year. This provision expired on March 31st, 2014. The Law Department's memorandum advises that the city cannot release its agreement without PPA's consent. The relevant portion that they cite states, the authority and the city by mutual consent may modify the system of on-street parking regulation to the extent permitted by law. City of Philadelphia versus Rendell. In response to Act 9, City filed a complaint in City of Philadelphia versus Rendell, which challenged the new statutory amendment as, once again, interfering with the city's home rule powers. Commonwealth Court sustained Commonwealth and PPA's preliminary objections and again dismissed the city's case. Commonwealth Court stated the issue had already been decided by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court in City of Philadelphia versus Schweiker. However, in footnote 23, Judge Levitt stated, Act 9 extended the contract. Act 9 did not divest the City Council of its ability to legislate on the subject of on-street parking that does not involve the proprietary aspects of on-street parking. The dissent reads Act 9 to give the authority a legislative veto on the language that, quote, the authority and the city by mutual consent may modify the system of on-street parking regulation to the extent permitted by applicable law, end quote. The parking authority law makes it clear that on-street parking regulation involves the act of administration, supervision, and enforcement, not legislative acts. In any case, the authority has not attempted to veto an act of City Council. The mere possibility of that event does not give rise to a cause of action. Stated otherwise, the claim is not ripe for our review because it is not presented here. City Council, in other words, has never legislated on the issue of on-street parking.
Till now.
So now we have the July 2012 statute, also known as the July 2012 statute, provides that from March 31st, 2014, when Act 9's provisions extending the 1994 agreement between the city and the parking authority expires, the parking authority shall enforce and administer all on-street parking regulation in Philadelphia, i.e. indefinitely. At that point in time, the General Assembly didn't even bother to extend the contract forcibly. It just simply legislated that from this point forward, the parking authority would administer the city's function of administering on-street parking. Unlike Act 9, the July 2012 statute does not extend the cooperation agreement. The General Assembly simply legislated the city function to the parking authority. The 2012 statute does not prohibit unilateral action by the city regarding its on-street parking and other functions. Such a prohibition would be unconstitutional absent a state interest. What is the state interest that originally was claimed in court, in the Supreme Court, by the Commonwealth, by the parking authority that was funding our schools? So we go back to funding our schools. In City of Philadelphia versus Schweiker, the Commonwealth and Parking Authority claimed that the state's interest in enacting Act 22, which took control of the Philadelphia Parking Authority from the city, was to provide adequate funds to the Philadelphia School District. In 2001, the state took control of Philadelphia's financially challenged school district. The school district is not a department of the city. When the school district was challenged, the city did not want to come up with the money. The state would then have the responsibility of funding the school. It is not something that the city governs. Since 2001, the Parking Authority has grown significantly and dramatically increased its revenues. However, its costs have also grown dramatically, and additional revenue generation authorized by the General Assembly is not provided to the city or the school district. In fact, the Parking Authority has never come close to giving the maximum $45 million annually to the Philadelphia School District as provided in Act 22. From fiscal year 2002 to fiscal year 2017, that would have been $720 million. In reality, over these 16 years, the Parking Authority has only given $89.6 million to the school district. Failure to fund our schools. Money promised to the school district has not been delivered. City Council held hearings regarding the Parking Authority's failure to provide funds to the School District of Philadelphia. Public officials have expressed the opinion that the Parking Authority appears to provide as little funds as possible to the School District of Philadelphia. The state has not adequately funded the School District of Philadelphia. As a result, the city has raised property taxes significantly, increased the school's percentage of use and occupancy tax, and implemented a state-authorized cigarette tax. This has not provided nearly the funds needed. On July 1st, 2018, the School District of Philadelphia was returned to local control, removing any reason for the Parking Authority to be under the control of the state and for the Parking Authority to administer the city's on-street parking functions. The Parking Authority is expected to provide a paltry $14.5 million to the School District of Philadelphia in fiscal year 2019. This small sum is the largest contribution to the School District of Philadelphia from the Parking Authority since it first began funding the school district in 2008. Bill 160844 is lawful and needed. Article 3, Section 32 prohibits the General Assembly from enacting local or special laws. The July 2012 statute would be unconstitutional if it prohibits the City of Philadelphia from regulating its own on-street parking and related functions. The articulated state interest in providing adequate funds to the School District of Philadelphia has not happened, and there is no indication that it will. Bill 160844 lawfully returns cities' on-street parking functions and all related revenue to the City of Philadelphia as required by the Pennsylvania Constitution in Article 3, Section 32. After I made this presentation, we tabled the hearing so that the law department could respond, and they did respond. They responded with a memorandum that is incorrect and misleading. On April 3rd, 2017, the Law Department responded to Councilman O's presentation claiming that Article 9, Section 13B of the Constitution of Pennsylvania creates an exception allowing the state to create special laws for cities of the first class. This is not true. Article 9, Section 13B is limited to the specific circumstances regarding the time in 1854 when numerous separate and distinct municipalities were consolidated into the City and County of Philadelphia. County offices were consolidated as well. The sole purpose of Article 9, Section 13B is to subject the City of Philadelphia's county functions to the state's authority in light of the fact that Philadelphia is both a city and a county. This allows the Commonwealth to pass general legislation involving all county functions throughout the Commonwealth, not to create an exception for Philadelphia County functions. Let me just explain that prior to this consolidation, the County of Philadelphia was just like Bucks County or Delaware County. There was a county and there were a lot of little cities in it, which now we understand as different neighborhoods of Philadelphia. They had their own police force, some of them didn't have a police force, they had their own fire department, some of them didn't. There were the anti-Catholic riots, there were fires. So what happened is the state legislator took all these little cities in the county of Philadelphia and consolidated them into a single city and county. There was no other entity like it in Pennsylvania, hence the city and county of Philadelphia. But they wanted to still be able to legislate county functions in Harrisburg, so this one exception, Article 9, Section 13B, is so that in the city and county of Philadelphia, the county offices and county functions respond to the laws created in Harrisburg solely for county duties. It was never the purpose of the Home Rule Charter and the Consolidation Amendment to deprive Philadelphia of its constitutional rights to perform its municipal functions. Article 3, Section 32, which prohibits the General Assembly from making special and local laws, was adopted in 1875. That's 21 years after Article 9, Section 13B. So Article 9 does not rule over Article 3. Article 3 was enacted after Article 9. Therefore, Article 9, Section 13B is not an exception to Article 3, Section 32. Finally, I would like to say that I did not have much trouble discovering Article 3, Section 32, because in all of the cases, in all of the appeals, the Supreme Court, the Commonwealth Court, they all kept pointing the city to Article 3, Section 32, that the city waived, abandoned, failed to claim. So the court pointed out to the city in numerous ways, you should be under Article 3, Section 32. The city never made that claim. So we have the legal ability with this bill, if we pass it out of committee, to then take back control of on-street parking, which is a large fee-generating entity in our city. It is a regulatory function. What is important about this is simply this: the state never had an interest, does not have an interest in regulating on-street parking. It's not a state function, it's a city function. No other city, township in Pennsylvania has had their parking administration seized. It's just asphalt and a curb. That's all it is. You put your car there, you pay a fee, that money goes to the city. That cannot be seized by the state. Thank you.
I will assume the responsibilities until the chair is back. The chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee for a comment.
Very briefly, Madam Chair, thank you. Obviously, the sponsor of this bill did a lot of work on this. I am not a lawyer, and I'm not here to defend anything with the parking authority, including school funding. But what I do know, we have 3 opinions from our lawyers, the city solicitor, who obviously disagrees with the sponsor of the bill and believes that this bill would not be legal. And in my opinion, if we pass something that the law department clearly says we cannot do, all we're doing is misleading the public, in my humble opinion. And that's how I will be voting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are they testifying on behalf of this bill? Yes. You want to let them? As we continue, we're going to let the witnesses at the witness table testify because they'll be testifying on this bill. Proceed. Your name for the record.
Thank you. I'm Rochelle Nichols Solomon, and I'm a member of Pay Up PPA. Thank you, Councilman David O. and the Streets and Services Committee for the opportunity to testify on Bill number 160844. Pay Up PPA is a grassroots coalition comprised of progressive, labor, faith, and pro-public education organizations. It is our goal to secure a dedicated, annual, and reoccurring revenue stream from the Philadelphia Parking Authority to the Philadelphia School District of at least $25 million in revenue. In addition, we are asking for accountability and transparency of the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Our call for this is informed by our experiences over the last year. Pay Up PPA formed in the wake of the sexual harassment at the Parking Authority and the ensuing audit from the Pennsylvania Department of the Auditor General. For the last year and a half, our coalition has attended every board meeting and spoke in the public comment section, agitating to create a public dialogue about how the agency can be more responsive to the needs of Philadelphians and the revenue challenges faced by the Philadelphia School District. Originally, when the Commonwealth took control, as has been stated in the PowerPoint, over the Parking Authority, it came with a promise of $45 million in revenue for the school district. This year, and through our organizing efforts, the Parking Authority funded the district at the highest level on record at $14.4 million. While we recognize this, and so it's already been said, it is still well short of our $25 million demand and woefully short of the original $45 million funding promises that were part of the justification of the state control. In addition, our coalition is seeking far more transparency and accountability from the Parking Authority. Through our attendance at board meetings, we have seen the leadership increase its use of executive session to discuss personnel and legal matters. We have been told that the public comment section is not a place for dialogue with the community. This has led us to ask members of City Council and the Parking Authority directly to hold a public hearing so we can have a constructive conversation about the future of the Parking Authority. This public agency has a reputation for not being transparent. The state auditor, Eugene Pasquale's report highlighted the absentee culture surrounding decisions of the board and its leadership. This culture forces Pay Up PPA to resort to right-to-know requests for routine information regarding organizational structure, consulting contracts, and official communication. We have also seen many calls for reform at the Parking Authority. After the recent discovery of FBI wiretapes of the Parking Authority's longstanding board member, the Philadelphia Inquirer advocated a return to local control. We of Pay Up PPA say now is the time to have this public conversation. Furthermore, we support Parking Authority Board Member Andrew Stutzman's call at the April 23, 2019 public meeting for term limits of board members. We welcome this new interest. While the board committed to holding a vote on the recommended changes, it was not without pushback about timing and schedule. Pay Up PPA applauds the intentions of Councilman David O's bill regarding local control of the parking authority. Our goal is a more accountable parking authority worthy of the public trust. We are open to all conversations on the best way to achieve that. We are committed to working with members of City Council, the administration, state officials, and leadership of the parking authority to achieve this. Thank you for this opportunity to testify today, and we would encourage and welcome hearings surrounding the city's relationship with the authority. Thank you.
Please proceed.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Steve Huntington. I'm speaking on behalf of the Crosstown Coalition. We have given to the panel our remarks. Rather than repeat them, I'd like to give a little background. Councilman O's office reached out to us on April 22nd. That happened to be the night of a monthly Crosstown board meeting. We therefore read the bill, presented it to our board, and looking at the bill alone without any other context such as been provided by Councilman O, we reached two conclusions. The first conclusion was that we strongly support the objective of returning control of the parking authority back to the city. But having read the bill, which if you read it on its face, merely, I shouldn't say merely, transfers the functions of parking enforcement from the parking authority to the streets department. So without this background, we were concerned and felt we couldn't take a position on this bill without further information. Specifically, we were concerned about the mechanics of the transition. The Parking Authority's 2017 report shows it has 944 employees and revenues of $274 million. So we were concerned that this bill, which on its face could, in theory, create a situation where on Friday, the parking authority would be issuing tickets and having full control of parking enforcement on the city streets. And then on Monday, if the bill went into effect, the streets department would have to assume those functions. So it was our suggestion that before the bill be enacted, that a study be considered as to how to efficiently make this transition. In speaking with Councilman O, I've learned that his suggestion is that the bill be passed, basically held in abeyance pending negotiations as to how to affect the transition of moving enforcement functions back to the streets department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Is there anybody else here to
Can I testify?
testify?
Yeah, can I testify?
Everybody's allowed to
Thank
testify.
You, thank you, good brother. My name is Emmanuel Bussey for the record. I'd like to testify on bill number 160844. I'm going to keep my comments extremely brief. This is absolutely bullshit that we're not taking back this on-street, this is absolutely not taking back on, that we're not fighting to take back on-street parking. There are some fights that you have to fight irregardless of consequence. I'm going to say that again. Even if the law department disagree that the city has the right to control its on-street parking, there are some fights that we elect our elected officials to fight for regardless of consequence. You guys know that you guys battle the law department and pass laws all the time that the law department doesn't recommend that you pass. This as David is evidenced by the state, is a bill and a law that we should be fighting irregardless of consequence. Bring the bill to the floor so we can have an appropriate discussion. Where's the parking authority? Where's the chairman? Where's the law department? Bring the bill to the floor so we can have a full discussion, so we can have all the information that we can discover whether or not this is a good notion or not. I'm gonna say it, and I'm just gonna leave it at this. You guys all know that we've been fighting for Orange Street control of Orange Street parking forever. You guys absolutely know that the control of our city functions and our control of our city revenue and assets, such as the parking authority, should be controlled by you, by city council, and the city of Philadelphia. It's absolutely bullcrap. We're going to have to delay it again. And anybody that doesn't want to pass this bill to bring back Orange Street control of our parking functions to the city of Philadelphia is BSing the citizens of Philadelphia. We elect you guys to stand up for us. There is not one constituency. You can go in your own neighborhoods. You won't find one constituency that's saying, no, I don't want you to fight for Orange Street parking. No, since the law department said you can't do it, I don't want you to fight for that. There is no constituency for that. We elect our elected officials to stand the heck up for us, and we want you to fight like hell for take back control of Orange Street parking. I thank you guys very much.
Thank you. 1 second. It'll be a 1 minute delay. Sorry. We are now going into a public, that'll temporarily end our hearing, and we'll go into a public meeting. I just want to say, and I apologize, I had to step out for a few minutes. We were just talking to our counsel who called me. And like I said, I had all intentions to moving this forward and moving forward with this vote in positive, but after speaking to our city solicitor, he informed us that it would put the city in grave danger of a lawsuit from the state and some other issues. And therefore, before we vote,
Yes.
I'm just going to let you know that I will be changing my mind to vote against this statute, against this legislation as presented until we meet again with our current solicitor and do not want to put us in any jeopardy.
Yeah, can I be heard?
Councilman Ho?
Yes, thank you. So the solicitor and the law department have had this, we tabled this in February 2017. They have had this, and they have had this. And they had the opportunity to respond. They had the opportunity to testify. They did not come here. If they were here, I would have many opportunities to break out the case law and break it down for them in public, on television, in every which way. They're not being here. The issue is that nothing will happen because we're just voting it out of committee. We haven't even put it on the floor, so nothing is at jeopardy. We move it from this stage to the next stage. I think it is a delay tactic, and quite frankly, if we were to vote it voted favorably in council, which I have said that I would hold the bill after it is, if it is gets a favorable vote, so that we could talk with the parking authority and try to see if we can come to an agreement. What we really should have is a contract. We should have a contract. It's our streets, it's our revenues. We should contract with the parking authority. So I think that the law department now calling in the middle of a hearing, instead of coming publicly forward and testifying, it's a private phone call, Mr. Chairman. It's not anything anybody here heard. They don't want to come down here and say things publicly. I would say that why don't we vote this out of committee, and then there will be no problem with the state because we haven't taken it to the floor. And by the way, if we did take it to a vote, it's not a lawsuit by the state. It's basically an injunction. They would file to say that we don't have the right. It doesn't interfere with any functions, doesn't jeopardize any money. All it does basically is allows the court to look at this if it gets that far.
Thank you, Councilman. And I do want to say that I think everybody here in the city of Philadelphia wants to have on-street parking back in city control. And how we could do that, whether it's through a contract or whether it's through legislation, is something that we need to look at. And I, like I said, came in full conscience to do that, and unfortunately changed my mind. And I think we still need to look. I will work with Councilman O, just as my vote. I will work with Councilman O and the Parking Authority to try to come up with something during this process. This bill is not dead. It stays alive in the committee here. So it's either we could hold it in committee or we could make a motion to move it out.
I'll make a motion to move it out.
Bill number, we are in a meeting. We are in a meeting, and the bill number 160844 has been moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. We have a draw on this at this time. The bill stays in committee, and this is not the end of it. We will now continue this conversation, and we will meet with the Parking Authority and with the solicitor and everybody else who needs to do that. And listen. There is a consequence when you move out of the committee, because this is. I'll talk to you after the hearing. I'll talk to you after the meeting. All right, that, we need to move on, continue to go back into a public hearing to hear our bills on streets and services. So I would like to go back into a public meeting, and for the record, we have Councilman O, Councilman Greenlee, Councilman Johnson, Councilwoman Bass, and myself here present for a public hearing. Mr. McMonagle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 190121, an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan number 194 by striking from the City Plan the southerly 10 feet wide portion of Burke Street from Howard Street to Hope Street in order to conform more closely with existing condition, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Either one could choose to start and then proceed with your state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Councilman Squale and members of the committee. My name is Frank Morelli, Survey Bureau Manager for the Department of Streets, and I would like to offer the following testimony on Bill 190121. This is not an administration ordinance, but an ordinance requested by Mr. Hercules Grigos of Obermeyer, Reedon, and Maxwell Hippel, representing Hope LLC. The purpose of this proposed ordinance is to authorize the striking from the city plan of the southerly 10-foot wide portion of Burke Street from Howard Street to Hope Street. This portion of Burke Street is not legally open and has long been occupied by a portion of the existing building sited on the abutting property. This action will revise the lines of Burke Street to conform to the existing conditions. The Department of Streets supports this ordinance and recommends favorable action to your committee. I'll be happy to answer to any questions.
Good afternoon, Chairman Squilla and members of Streets and Services Committee. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 190121, introduced by Councilmember Sanchez on February 21st, 2019. Bill number 190121 will strike and vacate from City Plan a 10 feet wide portion of Burke Street from Howard Street to Hope Street. This action is to have Burke Street's house line and curb line on City Plan to match its existing conditions, which had existed since 1870s. There will be no immediate improvement to the property. The City Planning Commission, at its meeting on March 19, 2019, recommended Bill number 190121 for approval. This concludes my testimony. I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today and be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to testify on bill number, is there any questions? Seeing none, is anyone else here to testify on bill number 190121? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. McMonagle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 190210, an ordinance authorizing Fox Television Stations LLC to install, own, and maintain planters at 330 Market Street, Philadelphia, PA 19106, all under certain terms and conditions.
Good morning, or good afternoon at this point, Chairman Squia and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Christopher Renfro, and I'm an engineering supervisor with the Department of Streets, here to offer testimony on Bill number 190210. This bill authorizes Fox Television Stations, LLC, as the owner to install, own, and maintain planters at 330 Market Street, Philadelphia, PA 19106, all under certain terms and conditions. Planters located on the South Market Street footway along the property frontage of 330 Market Street, as shown on the plans to be approved by the Department of Streets, placed a minimum of 1 foot 6 inches south of the South Market Street curb and spaced a minimum 5 feet 0 inches clear of all other street furniture. A minimum 9 foot 6 inches of clear passable sidewalk space is to remain after installation. The Department of Streets is not opposed to this proposed sidewalk cafe encroachment, as the 9 foot 6 inches of clear passable sidewalk space to remain after installation meets the required complete streets walking zone minimum width. Thank you for your time. This concludes my testimony. I'm pleased to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 190210? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. McMonagle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 190085, an ordinance granting permission to a licensed tour vehicle operator to operate on the west sidewalk of South Independence Mall West, formerly 6th Street, between Ranstead and Chestnut Streets, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Keisha Duckett, District Traffic Engineer for the Department of Streets. I am here today to offer testimony on Bill number 190085, which was sponsored by Councilman Squilla. This bill grants permission to a licensed tour vehicle operator to operate on the west sidewalk of South Independence Mall West between Randstead and Chestnut Streets. Department of Streets has no objections to this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today.
Please proceed.
The only thing I would like to add to that is that this bill authorizes a vehicle tour operator who is already duly licensed pursuant to Section 9-407 of the Philadelphia Code. Is the tour operator located on the west sidewalk of South Independence Mall West between Randstead and Chestnut Streets, the location formerly operated by the Ride the Ducks sightseeing tours, to use and maintain an existing ticket booth kiosk with utility connections, all under certain terms and conditions. Department of Streets is not opposed to this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 190085 as amended? Seeing none, Mr. McMonigle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 181046, an ordinance revising parking regulations for South Street from 21st Street to 27th Street.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear today. My name is Keisha Duckett, District Traffic Engineer for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 181046, was introduced by Councilman Johnson. Department of Streets has no objections to this bill that establishes a no stopping anytime tow-away zone parking regulation on South Street from 21st to 27th Street, South Side only. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 181046? Thank you. Anyone else here to testify? No. Mr. McMonigle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 190209, an ordinance amending Section 9-205 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Sidewalk Sales by prohibiting vending on City Avenue between Haverford Avenue and 77th Street, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. My name is Elizabeth Baldwin, and I am the Chief Code Official for the Department of Licenses and Inspections. Today, I am here to provide testimony on Bill number 190209, which, if enacted, will amend Section 9-205 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Sidewalk Sales. This bill would prohibit vending on City Avenue between Haverford and 77th Street. The department has no objection to this bill and is prepared to enforce. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none, is anyone else here to testify on Bill number 190209? Seeing none, Mr. McMonigle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 190255, an ordinance amending Section 9-205 of the Philadelphia Code related to sidewalk sales by adding new provisions prohibiting sidewalk sales in the 10th Councilmanic District and making other conforming amendments, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thanks, Betsy. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairman Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. My name is Elizabeth Baldwin, and I am the Chief Code Official for the Department of Licenses and Inspections. Today, I'm here to provide testimony on Bill number 190255, introduced by Councilman O'Neill, which, if enacted, will amend Section 9-205 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Sidewalk Sales. This bill would prohibit vending in the 10th Councilmanic District. The department has no objection to this bill and is prepared to enforce its provisions shall it become law. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony, and I will be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 190255? Thank you for your testimony. Mr. McMonigle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 181009, an ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow-away regulations on both sides of Decatur Road from Red Lion Road to Comley Road.
Keisha, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Keisha Duckett, District Traffic Engineer for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 181009. The regulation was posted on January 18, 2019 as a trial. To date, we have not received any complaints or concerns from citizens. As such, the Department of Streets has no objections to this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none, is there anybody else here to testify on Bill number 181009? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. McMonagle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 190103, an ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow regulations on both sides of McNulty Road from Southampton Road to Townsend Road.
Good afternoon. My name is Keisha Duckett, District Traffic Engineer for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill 190103, which was introduced by Councilman O'Neill. The regulation was posted on February 14, 2019 as a trial. Since that time, we have not received any complaints or concerns from citizens. As such, the Department of Streets has no objection to this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, anybody else here to testify on Bill number 190103? Seeing none, Mr. McMonagle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 190104, an ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow regulations on Townsend Road.
Good afternoon. My name is Keisha Duckett, District Traffic Engineer for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 190104, which was introduced by Councilman O'Neill. This regulation was posted on February 26, 2019 as a trial. Since that time, we have not received any complaints or concerns from citizens. As such, the department has no objections to this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 190104? Seeing none, Mr. McMonagle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 180950, an ordinance amending section 12-905 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Permits and Curb Loading Zones to exempt businesses on streets with designated bicycle lanes from any fee for designation of a curb loading zone, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Chris. You want to start with your testimony?
Good morning, Chair Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Christopher Pahalski, Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives at Otis. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 180950. Providing a high-quality bike network is a strategic objective for Otis as listed in Connect Philadelphia's Strategic Transportation Plan. Otis has no objections to this bill. There will, however, be revenue implications for both the city and the school district. The financial impact of these entities should be monitored and revisited, perhaps with a sunset provision. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 180950? Seeing none, Mr. McMonagle, please read the title of the next bill.
Bill number 190105, an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of, Bill number 190105, an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Rittner Street and South 12th Street, Camac Street and Moore Street, South 11th Street and Tasker Street, South 12th Street and Tasker Street, Marsh Street and South 9th Street, Marsh Street and South 6th Street, Marsh Street and South 11th Street.
Thank you. There is, for the record, nobody here to testify on this, but supported by the parking submitted in writing for the record, for the parking authority with no opposition. Anybody else here to testify on Bill number 190105? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. McDonald, please read the title of the last bill.
And Bill number 190184, an ordinance amending an ordinance adding a new chapter 12-3400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled use of an automated speed enforcement system to improve safety on Roosevelt Boulevard, to provide for the use of automated cameras to determine speeding violations on Roosevelt Boulevard, and to establish a system of enforcement and administration, and amending section 12-2405 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Removal and Immobilization of Parked Vehicles Notice, to include among violations subject to boot and tow enforcement, delinquent violation notices under such new chapter 12-3400, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Before you start with your testimony, I'd like to acknowledge Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Chairman Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. I just wanted to start by thanking for the record this bill's co-sponsors, which are Council President Clark, along with Council Members Bass and Council Member Maria Quinones Sanchez. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to briefly state that this bill simply authorizes the installation of speed cameras along Roosevelt Boulevard between 9th Street and the Philadelphia County line, which covers 11.75 miles. It's part of the city and Mayor Kenny's commitment to Vision Zero, which is a strategy to reduce traffic-related deaths to zero by 2030. And also, Mr. Chairman, just wanted to say a special thank you to Dr. Puchowski, my former colleague, and State Representative John Taylor, Corinne O'Connor, Randy Labasso, if I just screwed that up, charge it to my head and not my heart, and to Latanya Bird and Jason Duckworth. Thank you also very much for being here to voice your perspective relative to this legislation. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilwoman. You want to proceed? State your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair Squilla and members of the Council Street and Service Committee. I'm Christopher Pahalski, Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives at the Office of Transportation Infrastructure and Sustainability, known as OTIS. I'm joined here today by Qasim Ali, Chief Traffic Engineer for the City of Philadelphia in the Streets Department. I'm here to testify in support of Bill number 190184, introduced by Councilmember Parker, thank you, which would add a new chapter to the Philadelphia Code, Chapter 12-3400, entitled Use of an Automated Speed Enforcement System to Improve Safety on Roosevelt Boulevard. The bill would enable the use of automated speed cameras on Roosevelt Boulevard, which includes 6 council districts, by establishing a system of enforcement and administration to improve the safety of all people traveling along and across the corridor. We are very appreciative of the council members from the 6 council offices, Clark, Quinones Sanchez, Bass, Parker, Heenan, and O'Neill, whose districts include Roosevelt Boulevard, for their partnership in this bill. And thank you especially to Councilwoman Parker for your leadership in sponsoring. Your feedback and insightful input was shaped this legislation as a very important safety program. Every year in Philadelphia, there are over 10,000 reportable crashes. These crashes result in around 100 lives lost on Philadelphia streets every year, and nearly 250 people more are injured severely. This is why Mayor Jim Kenney adopted Vision Zero by executive order with one clear goal: eliminate traffic deaths on Philadelphia streets by 2030. How do we get to zero? Speed management. As humans, we are vulnerable to speed. The higher speeds involved in a crash, the more likely someone is to be killed or seriously injured. And in a city with people living, working, and going to school by using our streets, deadly rates of speeds are simply not acceptable. Vision Zero provides a comprehensive framework to manage speeds and traffic deaths on our city streets by focusing on equitable implementation of engineering, enforcement, education, and evaluation. Roosevelt Boulevard is a Vision Zero priority. If we are to reach our goal of zero traffic deaths in Philadelphia, we must bring meaningful change to Roosevelt Boulevard. But let's ground ourselves on what's happening today along the 12 miles of the boulevard. Between 2013 and 2017, there were over 2,500 reportable crashes. These crashes killed 62 people and severely injured 77 more. 83% of these crashes were driver to driver, and 65% were the result of speeding and aggressive driving. Enough is enough. That's why the city is currently working on the federal funded Tiger planning grant to bring change to the boulevard. This program kicked off in 2016 with a multi-year, multi-agency effort called the Roosevelt Boulevard Route for Change program. We will need to bring the ease of traffic safety, equitable engineering, enforcement, education, and evaluation to reduce traffic deaths to zero on Roosevelt Boulevard. The planning phase of the Route for Change program is in its final year. Over the past 3 years, we have been working with communities along the boulevard to develop recommendations for the 2025 engineering solutions and a 2040 vision to create a safe, reliable, and accessible Roosevelt Boulevard for today and for tomorrow. While we know engineering solutions are needed, it is not a panacea. We need to bring enforcement and education to bear on Roosevelt Boulevard too. On October 19, 2018, Mayor Jim Kenney joined Pennsylvania Secretary of Transportation Leslie Richards to announce Governor Wolf's signing of historic legislation to allow a 5-year automated speed enforcement pilot along Roosevelt Boulevard. Today, we are taking the next important step by joining our leaders in City Council to support safety on Roosevelt Boulevard with Bill number 190184. According to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, as of April 2019, 15 states and 140 municipalities across the United States have implemented automated speed enforcement devices in school zones and along injury networks. In the automated speed enforcement program's first 4 years in New York City measured a 63% reduction in speeding and a 55% reduction in fatal crashes at fixed speed camera locations. Automated speed enforcement saves lives. The use of automated speed enforcement is also common in Europe and Australia. A systematic review of speed camera effectiveness reported a 14 to 65% reduction in drivers speeding more than 10 miles above the posted speed limit, and an 11 to 44% reduction in crashes involving fatalities and serious injuries near camera sites. The automated speed enforcement pilot program Roosevelt Boulevard will be accompanied by strong educational messages as well as a generous 60-day driver warning period, ensuring the pilot is fair, balanced, and transparent. We look forward to continuing our work with the Philadelphia Parking Authority as program administrators and the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation on effective program communication, sharing the message that this pilot program is not about issuing tickets, but about changing behavior to preserve human life. Thank you for the opportunity to testify and to provide information to support our position on automated speed enforcement on Roosevelt Boulevard. It is an effective way to increase safety by changing driver behavior in a simple, life-saving way by managing driver speeds. We share the common concerns that when 13% of the city's traffic deaths occur on just 12 miles of Roosevelt Boulevard, more effective tools are needed to manage driver speeds and save lives. Thank you, and Mr. Ali and I are happy to answer questions at this time.
Thank you for your thorough testimony. And Vision Zero is a big deal, and looking forward to continue working toward that goal. Safe streets are important for everyone, no matter what mode of transportation or pedestrian that you are. So thank you so much. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I know we have some other folks to testify. Whoever's testifying, can you raise your hand? Larry? All right, come on up. Is there anybody else to testify after these three? Okay, great. Randy, if you want to start, and we'll work our way across. Just state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
My name is Randy Labasso. We're the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia. The Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia and the broader Vision Zero Alliance, which is a group consisting of 30 organizations, including AAA, AARP, the Clean Air Council, private citizens, and civic associations, support the introduction of an automated enforcement pilot along Roosevelt Boulevard, and thank Councilwoman Parker, Mayor Jim Kenney, and the Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability, and former State Representative John Taylor for their unique leadership on this issue. Automated enforcement, including red light cameras and speed cameras, is a large part of Philadelphia's Vision Zero action plan, and for good reason. These tools have been shown to reduce crashes involving all modes of traffic wherever they've been installed and put to use. Automated enforcement also reduces potential negative interactions between police and citizens. This is especially important for Roosevelt Boulevard, often called the Boulevard of Death. Roosevelt Boulevard regularly takes more lives of Philadelphians than any other street in the city of Philadelphia. A lot of that has to do with how it's been designed compared to how it's used today, and the city's Route for Change program will, hopefully, help fix those design problems in the future. Right now, however, we know the vast majority of deaths and serious injuries along the boulevard are happening because of high speeds. Although the boulevard makes up just 0.6% of Philadelphia's streets, it's generally about 6% of all reported crashes and 13% of all traffic fatalities. In 2018, Roosevelt Boulevard actually accounted for 20% of all traffic fatalities, double what it's generally been over the last decade. For whatever reasons, Roosevelt Boulevard is actually getting worse. And that's why the Vision Zero Alliance has been working for 2 years to get this bill passed, first in the Pennsylvania legislature and now in City Council. People have often asked me why the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia would be so involved in this effort, and I assure you it's not because we think people should ride their bicycles along the 40 to 80 mile per hour traffic along the road. Rather, it's because of our much larger push for Vision Zero in Philadelphia. Bicyclists are not going to be safe until pedestrians are safe and drivers are safe too. That's why we've worked to mark the location of every single pedestrian fatality in every single Philadelphia neighborhood over the last 2 years, the same way our group has done with ghost bikes you often see around town. We know this legislation, if made into law, will help keep bicyclists, pedestrians, and drivers safer. We know this because everywhere it's been tried, it's worked. The Institute for Highway Safety has studied this for many years and conducted a deep study of automated enforcement in Montgomery County, Maryland. There, cameras have reduced by 59% the likelihood of a driver exceeding the speed limit by more than 10 miles an hour, compared with similar roads in 2 nearby Virginia counties without cameras. The camera program there also reduced the likelihood of fatal or serious injury by 39% on residential roads and 19% overall. Around the country, we've seen similar statistics. Chicago saw a 31% decline in speeding vehicles after the implementation of automated enforcement. Washington, D.C. actually reported a 70% reduction in fatalities after these were implemented there. And there's been a 53% reduction in fatalities since Portland introduced the program. Portland, Oregon, that is. Moreover, around the country, few people are being cited more than once. There was a 60 to 80% reduction in violators within 6 months of camera deployments in D.C., and in Seattle, 90% of offenders never received a second violation. Lastly, from a social justice standpoint, the Bicycle Coalition supports the implementation of automated enforcement over police enforcement. We all watch the news here, and we all know how some police can profile drivers. We know how those interactions can go downhill shortly after that police stop begins. Automated enforcement gets rid of that interaction altogether, and it has the ability to change behavior, which is badly needed on Philadelphia's Boulevard of Death. Thanks for taking my testimony, and I am free to answer any questions you have after everyone has finished speaking.
Thank you. Just state your name as, state, okay. State your name and then proceed with your testimony.
My name is Jason Duckworth. I'm a resident of Philadelphia at 2120 Ray Street. I also serve as president of the Delaware Valley Smart Growth Alliance. The Delaware Valley Smart Growth Alliance is a progressive group that favors progressive land use and transportation policies, and we are actively involved with the Vision Zero Alliance. I'm here to testify strongly in favor of the ordinance before you. I've been involved going back to when Senator Mike Stack had originally proposed legislation for speed cameras in Roosevelt Boulevard, which was more than 4 years ago. This has been a very, very long effort in Harrisburg, and we're delighted to be at this moment where the technology will actually begin to be implemented on Roosevelt Boulevard. I want to just stress a couple things. First is the scientific evidence behind the efficacy of this technology is beyond dispute. Randy Labasso mentioned research by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. Cities throughout the United States and throughout the globe have successfully implemented this technology. So we should be fully confident that there are safety benefits from what we are proceeding to do. I'm in favor of the legislation. I do want to stress 3 things, additional things that I think should be considered perhaps before final passage of this ordinance. The first is that the fines for violating speed cameras should be in the spirit of behavior change, not punishment. We are trying to get motorists to change their behavior, which has now become normalized. There is a culture of aggressive driving in this city, and when we turn on these cameras and the tickets are issued, it will be a dramatic change from what is the norm today on the boulevard, where people can flout the law without consequence. Therefore, though I am a cyclist in this city and I walk to work, I want us to take a longer view and not be quite as harsh as we may feel compelled to be when we are outraged by the egregious driving of speeding motorists. For example, We have in the current draft of the bill, there's a 60-day warning period where somebody who violates the ordinance will simply be given a warning notice. In the city of Chicago, their technology works where the first violation, even beyond 60 days, does not result in a citation. It results in a warning notice. I think that's something that we should consider as well. Secondly, $100 is the lowest level of fine in the current ordinance. I would argue that a $50 fine, which is the fine that is now in place in New York City and Washington, D.C., may be more appropriate. $100 is a very steep fine for people of lesser means. I also think that the message of behavior change is adequately delivered by a $50 fine. Secondly, I would just like to stress that we need to have a robust communication strategy around this technology. There are people who are actively against automated enforcement technologies. And the narrative that is peddled by these folks is that automated enforcement is about revenue generation. I hope that the city and/or the PPA has a strong communications plan in place so that the safety benefits are what are touted and are first and foremost in citizens' minds. Finally, I would just like to say that we need to make sure that we are collecting data on this pilot program. We need baseline data around how motorists currently drive on the boulevard, and we need to carefully measure the reductions in speeding and the reductions in crashes on the boulevard after its implementation. Only with careful research will we be able to demonstrate the safety benefits. In conclusion, I just want to thank the councilwoman who's sponsoring this ordinance. I think this is a great day for Philadelphia. Thank you for hearing my testimony.
Thank you for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed, and then we'll go to one more person testifying.
Hello, my name is LaTanya Bird, and I am here today, happy to be here today. It was a long journey to get here to have you guys listen to why we really need to have the speed cameras on the Roosevelt Boulevard. I am the aunt of 4 precious souls who lost their lives on the Roosevelt Boulevard on July 16th, 2013. I lost my niece, Samira Banks. She was my first niece in the family. We lost her 3 sons, Samir, Sadim, and Sashawn. Samira was a young mother who cherished her kids. She loved working with children. Samira's spirit was like, you know, when you seen her, you just, you know, it was like you just had a, you know, you just have a breath of fresh air. She always was a pleasant person. She was just full of life. You know, she wasn't a person just sat home and watch her kids. You know, she always had activities and things planned for her whole family. We just celebrated my mom's birthday on April 29th, and my mom just turned 69, and we were all talking about the 60th birthday party that Samira had gotten all her cousins to get together and throw for her. So when we were there, she was like, you know, I thought I was going to celebrate my 70th birthday, and we said no. We said every day is precious, every day. We lost, my mom lost 2 generations that night, and she just wanted to know why. Our family always wanted to know why, and I always told them that, you know, they didn't die in vain, and all of these other people on the Roosevelt Boulevard did not die in vain. We all listen to the news. I know you all heard the news this weekend, and this week, it's been a lot more. I think 2 more people died, probably more than that. And it's not just on the Roosevelt Boulevard. So this is a good start for Philadelphia. Over the past 2 years, I've traveled to Harrisburg with the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Vision Zero Alliance, to meet constituents on both sides of the aisles, telling my story, asking for better safety measures along the Roosevelt Boulevard. I wrote letters, I made phone calls in support of a bill that would legalize speed cameras along this Roosevelt Boulevard. And when I wrote those letters, believe me, I know nowadays everybody like to type and everything is technology, but I took my time, found some pretty paper, and handwrote every single letter. And I put this picture in there so that they could see the family that we lost, because these are real people. It's not just a name, a number, they're real. And my nephew today, he lost his mother and his 3 brothers. He's seen everything. He hasn't talked about it yet to none of us. The therapists, they say that he's progressing, but it's hard for him. It's hard for him to even come and visit when we have family functions. His mother is gone and his 3 brothers are gone. My travels during that time was well worth it. The law to put speed cameras along the boulevard was passed last year, a testament to both the work of ordinary citizens like me. We can accomplish things through hard work, dedication, and working together. The bill was passed to prevent more people from dying. The main word there is more. I've lost my family already. I don't want to see any other family go through what my family has gone through. And yes, it's 6 years later, but it's so hard. Every holiday. Mother's Day is coming up. That's going to be a hard day for all of us. I'm the oldest of 5 sisters, so, we're all moms. We look around and we see somebody missing, they're missing, and it hurts. During the Vision Zero conference last year, I heard stories from other families around the country who lost their loved ones to, deaths, crash fatalities on different roads. And it was really hard for all of us to sit there and tell our stories. But we thought about it, and and I looked around, and I was just looking at everyone, and I said, you know what? I don't think I ever would have crossed your paths. It just didn't seem like it. But there we were, sitting at a table together. And that's when we decided that, it doesn't matter how old you are, life is short. We need to do something today. We don't know why our loved ones were taken, but there's something we can do to help everyone else. So Families for Safe Streets of Greater Philadelphia, we decided to form a chapter here, and it's new, we're just starting. It seems a little bit overwhelming when I hear the news and I hear about how many people are dying from all these other crashes in the city. And I'm just thinking, and it's really hard, and this is from my heart. When I hear it, I just, I get choked, and I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, how do we reach all of these people? How? How do we do that? We want our group to provide solace to these loved ones. And we want the opportunity to work together for better outcomes. Vision Zero, it's like vision. We want you guys to vision 0 deaths in our immediate future. Our goal is to support and advocate for legislation for safer streets for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. On behalf of Families for Safe Streets of Greater Philadelphia, I am here today asking you to continue providing the citizens of Philadelphia as a whole more tools to keep our pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers safe going forward. And I just wanted to say one thing. My nephew, he's Samira's youngest brother. I lost my sister. They lost their mom years ago, and Samira took over. So for them, it's like they lost a second mom. And he put something up today, and it's really, he put something up on Instagram today. And it's just something to think about. It may sound crazy to some people, but he said, what if we all are in heaven today? And when we die, we go to earth. Think about it. All of the decisions we make today, how do they affect all of us? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your heartfelt testimony. Councilwoman Bass?
I just wanted to thank you also for your testimony and for being here today. And I remember hearing the story about your niece and your nephews and really being moved that, as you said, 2 generations gone just like that. And so I just really wanted to extend my condolences. And, I'm hopeful that the city of Philadelphia will do more for traffic safety. I've been at lights where, the light goes from red to green and it's within like a millisecond and people are already beeping, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up.
Yes.
We drive too fast in this town. We drive too recklessly in this town. I've been hit twice, once by someone who was probably not paying attention behind the wheel, just slid into the back of my car on a rainy day, and someone who was intoxicated drove into me and really could have killed me and my daughter in the car. So I just say all that to say that, I feel your pain. I don't know your pain, but I feel your pain. And whatever we can do to make our city streets safer, we have to do it. As much traffic calming as we can do, bike lanes, things that will slow people down. There is no hurry. Whenever someone rides by me in a hurry, I say, oh, they must be an emergency room doctor rushing to the hospital to save somebody's life. That must be the emergency, because otherwise there's no reason, for the reckless driving that you see in the city of Philadelphia. So I just really wanted to express that, and condolences again to you and your family.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for your testimony. I know we have one more special guest here to testify. Honored to recognize State Representative Taylor and welcome him to the City Council chambers. State Representative, you state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony. Welcome.
My name is John J. Taylor, private citizen actually. But good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Hope you're having a good day. See, this is just one of many procedures you're going through. But also to members of the committee, Councilwoman Bass, Councilman O, Councilman Greenlee, and the prime sponsor of this legislation, and my former colleague, Councilwoman Parker. Anytime we consider any legislation, whether it's a state or a Philly level, at the local level, we ask ourselves, why do we need it? And the prior testimony and from folks, whether it's Latanya or Jason or everybody behind me and Sarah, that we spent so many hours and days with over the past 4 years, they're the types of stories that lead us to the conclusion that we need speed cameras in the city of Philadelphia. I provided written testimony that I'm not necessarily going to follow, as well as a bill analysis of the bill that we passed that can be broader than what you want to do, but it's the parameters within which you need to pass this. But I'm certainly here in support of Ordinance 190184. September 16th, 2016, we used your wonderful chambers here in the House Transportation Committee and heard testimony from the citizens of Philadelphia. We heard statistical analysis from Captain Healy, Councilman Taubenberger, which really lay out the need. You don't have to go far when you hear the number of crashes that occurred over the past 10 years on Roosevelt Boulevard, but one that stands with me pretty vividly is that Roosevelt Boulevard from 9th Street to Bucks County comprises less than 1% of all the roadways in Philadelphia. Yet it accounts for almost just short of 20% of all the fatalities. And we're not talking about crashes or rear-end collisions, we're talking about fatalities. It's sort of personal to me in some respects. My wife and I live about 300 yards from Roosevelt Boulevard. We hear the police sirens, we hear the fire engines, we hear the media helicopters hovering above fatal accident scenes, and it's something that has to stop. And I think that finally this ordinance is the way to do it. This is not a new concept from our point of view. So as council members, you can rest assured that this idea has been fully vetted. This started as early back as 2007 with then Representative George Kenney. It continued with Senator Stack years ago, and I picked this up in the term before last. So it's had various numbers of the bills. It was finally passed as Senate Bill 172, when we incorporated the speed camera on Roosevelt Boulevard concept into work zone safety. But again, you can hear all the statistics, but when you hear LaTanya, and it's hard to hear that story and still remember that speed was the only reason, certainly recklessness as a result of the speed, but that was the reason that family was killed. And if we can try to prevent that, I think we should. And I guess any good advocate for any legislation would also talk about the criticism of the bill. And they are twofold. One is that this is Big Brother, this is government overseeing things that they shouldn't be overseeing. And if we can defeat that argument in the Pennsylvania legislature, we should be able to defeat that argument in the city council chambers. I had to hear from members that always talked about freedom and liberty and being free from cameras, whether it be speed or red light. And my argument is when they come to Philadelphia, as well as all Philadelphia residents, I want them to be free from the fear of dying on our roads. The other is, you're going to hear this as you proceed with this, that this is just a revenue generating bill. The revenue, as you know, does not come to City Council. It goes into a statewide fund. And it's my hope, and I'm sure everybody that testified, and I'm sure you agree, that it's our hope that the net revenue of this process is zero. And that is that people will comply, people will slow down, there won't be tickets. And I can assure you that the first couple months of this, people will be agitated. But I can speak personally. I'm on that boulevard all the time. I need to slow down. Everyone needs to slow down and become less distracted. But I think that at the end of the day, the passage of this legislation does one simple thing, and that saves lives. I urge you to pass this and be another positive step for safety in Philadelphia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
John, thank you so much for your testimony, taking the time to come here, and it really speaks greatly to your mission as an elected official, that now that you're a private citizen, you're still out there trying to help people. So we really appreciate that, and it's a model that we should all hopefully follow when we're done. But thank you for your testimony. Any questions?
Just comment.
Councilman Greenlee?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just hope I can go to Mr. Taylor and ask for tips on how to be a good private citizen after this year, since I won't be here. Be one of those.
Well, you'll notice, Councilman, that your blood pressure will drastically drop. You're a much happier person. And you can pay a little more attention to your private life than you have been.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there anybody else here to testify on bill number 190184? Seeing none, that would end our session, our hearing. We will now go into a public meeting. I'd like to recognize Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I move the adoption of the amendment that's been distributed to bill number 190085.
The amendment to bill number 190085 has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I have it. Amendment has passed. Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the following bills be reported out as committee with favorable recommendation, that the rules of council be suspended to allow for their first reading our next session of council. Bill numbers 190105, 190121, 190210, 190085 as amended, 181046, 190209, 190255, 181009, 190103, 190104, 180950, and 190184.
All bills moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All bills read into the record with bill number 1908005 as amended, with the suspension of the rules to be read next session of council. That will end our meeting. Thank you so much. Have a great day.